This is the morning brief from the Economic Times.
UP election campaigns, always high on decibels, doles, and demographics. Finally, 2 months of shrill campaigning, of Hindutva rhetoric, and Samajwad sloganeering came to an end earlier this week. The people have voted. Exit polls are out. But before the actual results later today, let's get back to the battlefield full of sound and fury.
अब आप सभी को मिलकर के भाजपा को रिकॉर्ड सीटों से जिताना है।
चाहे उद्योग वाले हों, कारोबारी हों, उन्हें डबल इंजन की सरकार का सामना करना पड़ रहा है, डबल भ्रष्टाचार हो रहा है।
ये चुनाव 80 बनाम 20 का होगा। 80% समर्थन एक तरफ होगा, 20% दूसरी तरफ होगा।
तो महिलाओं को आगे बढ़ना पड़ेगा, आपको खुद ये काम करना पड़ेगा। आगे बढ़िए।
अब इन वर्गों के लोगों को इस चुनाव में ऐसी समाजवादी पार्टी को किसी भी कीमत पर अपना वोट नहीं देना है।
India's most populous and politically significant state changed the politics of Hindi heartland forever with the Ram Janmabhoomi movement of the 1990s, polarizing the state along religious lines. Caste and community fault lines further seeded a unique blend of identity politics that still holds its sway even as unemployment, farmers' agitation, stray cattle destroying crops, COVID mismanagement, or inflation became the burning issues for incumbent BJP Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath and his main contender, the young and dynamic Akhilesh Yadav of Samajwadi Party. But what or who mattered more? Is divinity still as politically potent for the youth as a degree and a job? Are women voters the biggest beneficiary of welfare schemes like free ration, housing, direct cash transfers becoming the decisive vote bank? But then, why is everyone writing off Mayawati and her Bahujan Samaj Party or Priyanka Gandhi's Ladki Hoon, Lad Sakti Hoon campaign? It's Thursday, 10th of March. From the Economic Times, I'm your host, Arijit Burman. You're listening to Understanding UP, Ram, Roti and Rozgaar on the Morning Brief. But at the core, elections are always about hard arithmetic. And so we decided to split the episode into two. We will first talk to a psephologist about voting patterns, vote shares, basically the numbers that will decide the fate of many a Neta and an Abhineta of UP, and then go over to my colleague Kumar Anshuman, who like me crisscrossed the state to catch the mood of the electorate. But first, we have Amitabh Tiwari, a political Baba, a former banker with BNP Paribas, ABN and several other marquee institutions, and now a data cruncher come political strategist who, as per his Twitter bio, has been following his passion for politics and elections. Amitav, welcome to the Morning Brief. Before we get started, Amitav, UP politics is or has always been very complex. Multiple caste groups, different dynamics. If you could help us understand the lay of the land, as well as the traditional allegiance or affinity of each one of these caste groups, that will be very helpful.
So, in terms of religion, Hindus are 80% and minorities 20% of the population of Uttar Pradesh.
Which is around 26 odd crores.
And amongst Hindus, we have the upper caste, which is around 20%. It includes Brahmins and Thakurs primarily. They have traditionally backed the Bharatiya Janata Party. Then we have the scheduled caste or Dalits, which is around 21% of population. Amongst Dalits, we have Jatavs, from which community Mayawati belongs to, which is around 12% of population. And then the other block is called as non-Jata, which includes Parsis and Paswans, etc., which is around 9% of population. Historically, the SCs have backed the Bahujan Samaj Party. However, over the last few elections, the non-Jatas have started veering around the BJP in small numbers. Then we have the bigger chunk of OBCs, other backward classes, which is around 40% of population. Amongst them, the largest is the Yadavs, which is around 10% of population. They have historically backed the Samajwadi Party. Then the other 30% block in the OBCs is called as non-Yadav OBC block, which includes very small caste groups like Kurmis, Lodhs, Rajbars, Nishads, etc., 3 to 4% each. And their vote used to be historically split between the BSP, SP, and the Congress, and the BJP also. Over the last few elections, which is 2014, 17, and 19, primarily this entire non-Yadav OBC vote block, around 60% of that has been supporting the BJP.
That's very interesting, because we have always grown up hearing this, that BJP has traditionally been a party which is backed by the upper caste. But you're saying that for the last few elections, it's the upper caste as well as the OBCs or the other backward castes who are migrating towards or gravitating towards the BJP.
Yes. So from a Brahmin Baniya dominant party, today BJP is a party which gets the backing of non-Yadav OBCs, the upper caste, as well as the non-Jata. So it has the entire upper caste, OBC, and the SC populace among its vote blocks.
So that's really seems to be an unbeatable combination. And if we look at the 2017 vote share, as well as the number of seats, BJP, I guess, because they are consolidating at the top as well as at the bottom, they had an overwhelming sweep. They cornered around 39 to 42% of the vote share. I mean, I'm just averaging it out. There are various estimates, which translated to around 325 odd seats for BJP-led alliance. There were others, small parties like Apna Dal and as part of the BJP alliance. Samajwadi Party, on the other hand, was way behind by almost 20% at 22 to 25% vote share, which translated to around 47 seats in 2017. Would you say that seemed too big a gap to bridge even 5 years later in 2022, despite all the usual, chatter around anti-incumbency?
Yeah, I mean, SP fought in alliance with Congress in 2017, and SP got 22% and Congress 6%, while the NDA alliance led by the BJP got around 42%. So the gap between SP and NDA alliance is around 20%, because Congress this time is contesting separately. So this is a big swing, or a huge swing, which is needed in favor of the Samajwadi Party to bridge this gap. It is a daunting task, because if you see, there are not many vote blocks available for the Samajwadi Party to make a dent so that it is able to make up for this huge difference. Because as we discussed, the non-Yadav OBCs, the non-Jatas, and the upper caste, they are primarily with the BJP for the last 3 elections. The Jatas are with the Bahujan Samaj Party. So the Samajwadi Party is primarily left with Muslims and Yadavs, which is called as MY there, which is 30% of population. So no party is able to get 100% of any community vote. So even if Samajwadi Party gets 80-90% of this MY population, it will still be at 27-28%, which is still around 15% gap with the NDA or the BJP-led alliance. It's a huge task. And the arithmetic is such, because BJP-led alliance at 42, Samajwadi Party at 22, BSP also incidentally at 22, 6% Congress and 8% others. So for this election, in this election for Samajwadi Party to win, they needed to make a direct dent in the vote bank of BJP, because even if they get votes from other parties, they will not be able to reach a level which will match BJP's vote share. So they need to make a dent in the BJP vote bank. And for that, they have created some social or caste-based alliances.
Amitabh, but if Samajwadi Party could have managed to take out the core BSP constituency, wouldn't have had a big impact, because, as you said, in 2017, they cornered 22% of the total votes.
Yeah, so theoretically, 22 plus 22 is 44, which is more than 42. So possible, but how can a party which has been there in UP and has defined Dalit politics for the past 3 decades reduce to zero? So it's a bit of a high task, I would say. And we'll, we will also have to understand the breakup of the vote share of BSP. So BSP's 22% vote share, around 13-14% is a core Dalit vote bank, and 7 to 8% is non-Dalit vote, which would comprise of Muslims, Brahmins, even non-Yadav OBC vote. So this 7 to 8% can actually shift to Samajwadi Party. But taking the core vote, which is the Dalit Jatav as well as some non-Jatav vote, is very difficult, because the Dalits have historically had an antagonistic relationship with the Ahirs or the Yadavs and the Muslims. So the vote block is not very complementary. It is very antagonistic, because Dalits face the ire of the minority community whenever the riots happen, because Dalits are essentially based outside the village, correct? So the upper caste is at the center, so they are able to, and vice versa. So they are able to save themselves from the onslaught. So, and a lot of Dalits also work in the fields of Yadavs, and we know what is the relationship between landlords and the laborers working. Yeah. So this is not a very complementary, it is a very antagonistic vote block. So it is not a very natural vote block which could have shifted from BSP to Samajwadi. The non-Dalits, of course, I think would shift this time towards Samajwadi Party.
But that's by itself not enough. And we are assuming that the BJP will remain static at 42, and they will not increase their own vote share by consolidating their vote bank further.
Correct, because what happens is that, I mean, this is an underdog effect wherein we all romanticize about the fact that an underdog can actually beat the top team. And we are all discussing about possibilities that BJP's vote share could fall and 5, 10, 7, whatever, because of anti-incumbency. But there are also historical references in the past, like the recent West Bengal election, when BJP was supposedly giving the Mamata Banerjee's party a tough fight. Mamata Banerjee's vote share actually increased from 42 to 48, 49%. In 2019, when Mahagathbandhan, the Bahujan Samaj Party, Samajwadi Party and RLD had formed an alliance against the BJP, similar discussions used to take place that the vote share of these three parties is more than BJP, and hence BJP would lose many seats. But what happened is that BJP increased its vote share from 40% to 50%. So I'm saying it is a possibility. It could have a low probability, and that is debatable, whether that probability is 5%, 10, 15, 20, whatever. But that possibility is also there, that BJP also increases its vote share, primarily eyeing the Dalit vote, because here the vote block is complementary. We already have non-Jatavs from the Dalits veering towards the BJP because of various reasons, Labharti, politics, and even a higher representation, because they've now got better representation in the cabinet in terms of the number of tickets which have been distributed. So that vote block could add.
So you talked about the Samajwadi Party trying to overcome this gap by forming a rainbow coalition with the Jat vote on one side through its alliance with the RLD, and on the other side, tying up with non-Yadav backward castes and scheduled castes. So from the Kurmis, Rajbhars, Chauhans. Now, you called, you had an interesting term for these smaller parties. They are the vice captains, you said. How significant, in this clash of titans, how significant are the role of these smaller parties or groups?
So they have a very important role to play. Around 50 seats from Samajwadi Party's alliance and around 30 seats from BJP's alliance are being contested by these smaller parties, which I call them the vice captains. So unless the vice captains also perform on these seats which they are contesting, and on the seats which they are not contesting, they need to transfer their votes or transfer the community votes which they claim to be leaders of in favor of the alliance partner, which could be BJP or Samajwadi Party in different seats. So here the strike rate of the vice captains will actually decide how much the captain's tally is, in a sense.
And the commentary has been that, you may have tied up with a leader, but that does not necessarily guarantee that that single representative of a particular caste group would carry the entire community with him and move wherever, whichever direction he or she is moving.
Very aptly put, because there is no leader. Even Yogi Adityanath cannot claim to get 100% Thakur votes. Even Akhilesh Yadav cannot claim to get 100% of Yadav votes. So it's majorly capped at 70, 75, 80%. So the rest 15 to 20% anyways get split. So we'll have to see whether these leaders who are claiming to be champions of their community, whether they are real champions or not. Because they would definitely claim to be on a higher pedal to bargain for more seats from the alliance partners. And over the years, what has happened is that BJP has also developed alternative Rajbar leadership. So that's why it has let go Rajbar in a sense. Alternative non-Jata leadership as well, and alternative Kurmi leaders as well. So it has also started planting those saplings of smaller leaders, which could later on become bigger leaders of their communities.
The last thing that I wanted to ask you, Amitabh, is the fact that the exit polls seems to be emphasizing on the significance of the women voters, especially poor women voters who are the biggest beneficiaries of the various welfare schemes. How important a constituency are they in a state like Uttar Pradesh? Do you feel if the BJP actually comes back to power, that's the X factor?
See, if you see the turnout of the first 6 phases, phase 1, 2, and 3, the males turned out in larger number than the females, around 1.5-2% on an average. From 4, 5, 6, we see the females turning out in larger numbers than the males. And phase 5 and 6, phase 5 is by 5% higher than males, and phase 6 is 10% higher than males. So, and 5, 6, and 7 are mostly the eastern UP part, from where, which are the poorer parts, and from where also we see a lot of migration of labor to urbanized centers like Gujarat or Maharashtra or Tamil Nadu. So there the woman is the person who is running the house in the absence of the male counterpart. So she is in fact taking all the decisions and facing the hardships, whatever she has to, because of the impact of COVID, etc. So the women, because of the increasing level of awareness, literacy, and this factor, thinking independently and voting on their own. They're having their own mind in terms of voting, and they're making independent choices. So now what has happened is that because like PM Awas Yojana, same with Ujjwala Yojana, these various schemes have developed a sort of a loyal vote bank, and these women are not vulnerable voters. And with an increased turnout, as I've said, in 4, 5, and 6, and if these numbers hold true, this could be an X factor in these elections, as you're saying.
Amitabh, thanks a ton for explaining threadbare, as I said, a complicated state, various dynamics, and it's always fluid.
Thank you, Arjit. Thanks for trust.
जय श्री राम का नारा लगाकर कमल पे बटन दबाएंगे, ठीक है, नून रोटी खाएंगे, बीजेपी को जिताएंगे।
यूपी में काबा कोरोना से लाखन मर गईले, लासन से गंगा भर गईले। कोरोना से लाखन मर गईले, लासन से गंगा भर गईले। टिकठिया का फन्नोचत कुकुर बिलार बा है बाबा काबा, यूपी में काबा।
Let's be honest, it's the people who vote, and however strategic are the alliances that bind disparate caste and community groups in a state like Uttar Pradesh, where everyone is a political pundit and will say something and actually do the exact opposite. It's equally important to figure out इस बार का मुद्दा क्या है. We heard what the numbers are throwing up, but let's get to the emotions. And for that, I would rely on my colleague and friend Anshuman, who has been crisscrossing the state for over 2 months, reporting extensively on the campaign in Uttar Pradesh. Anshuman, welcome to the morning brief.
Thank you, Arjit.
Long 2-month field report. It's good, but tiring also. But tell me, the exit polls, it seems most of them are suggesting, rather all of them are suggesting that BJP is bucking the trend of 37 years and coming back to power. Now, while you were on the field, did you feel a pro-incumbency wave of some sorts?
Arjit, anyone who was there on the field, not only me, but a number of journalists, you ask anyone and they would say that it was not a wave election. It was not a wave in favor of the incumbent government or in favor of the opposition. Definitely, it was an election of equations. Particular individual candidates, individual assembly seats, their dynamics, their equations were playing a bigger role. That is one thing I noticed. A number of things which BJP has done is resonating with the people, like in terms of better infrastructure. During COVID period, the government started providing free rations to all the people below poverty line. The state government also started providing same amount of ration, free food. That has been working in favor of the party. At the same time, there are issues like, which is going against BJP. The field inflation is there. There is not enough job opportunities. Government recruitments going down. So there was not a completely pro or anti kind of thing, but this was an election in between somewhere where there were supporters from both sides who were arguing based on their requirements.
And the usual narrative around Uttar Pradesh or even Bihar is that no matter what, no matter how bad the unemployment, COVID mismanagement, inflation, at the end of the day, when it comes to voting, UP votes on caste lines. This time around, was it the same?
Very good question, Rajit. Whoever tells you Rajit in election, remember that the caste barriers are now falling down in UP. I would say, from my experience, I go by political history of UP, Bihar, this Hindi heartland, and I would say that, it is only the caste which matters in the end.
मैं आज आपको कहने आया हूं, ये अखिलेश बाबू जो है ना, अखिलेश बाबू के चश्मे में 2 कांच है. चश्मा तो मेरे जैसा है, मगर 2 अलग अलग जाति और धर्म दिखाई पड़ते हैं.
बीजेपी बैंक के आरएसएस एवं अन्य और सभी संकीर्ण व जातिवादी संगठनों ने पूरे देश में न केवल धर्म के नाम पर राजनीति करने की लगातार यह गलत कोशिश की है, बल्कि इन्होंने उन तत्वों को भी काफी बढ़ावा दिया है जिन्होंने इंसानों के बाद अब देवी देवताओं को भी अपनी घिनौनी राजनीति का शिकार बनाकर उन्हें जातियों में बांटने का भी प्रयास किया है.
ये जो जातिवाद है और जो सांप्रदायिकता है, इससे आपका पेट नहीं भरने वाला. इससे सिर्फ और सिर्फ कुछ राजनीतिक दलों का फायदा होगा.
whoever wins, if we need to talk about BJP, they won in 2017 because they formed a social equation which suited them. Apart from, encashing the anti-incumbency of Akhilesh Yadav government, there were a lot of things which were talked about that, this is the government of Yadav and Muslims, and they are dominating. They are, going over police stations. They are rampanting people. They are, acquiring land. They are just doing everything. So that kind of atmosphere created against anti-Yadav, anti-Muslim votes, and that helped BJP in doing the social engineering, which it did in 2017, and it won. In 2019, a good part of that engineering is still prevailed. Now we are talking about 2022. I would say, again, it's a kind of social equation or management of caste. Just look at what BJP has done and what Akhilesh Yadav has done. If you see UP and Bihar, if you see the new regional parties which have come up, in Bihar it is VIP. There was this RLSP of Upendra Kushwaha, which is now merged with the JDU. Then there was this Jitan Manji party. In UP, it is Nishat party or OP Rajbhar's Soheldev Samaj party. So if you see all these parties or Kurmis, Apnadan, these parties were made to stand on their own with the support of the BJP. BJP used this party in 2014. If you see the new regional parties coming up in UP and Bihar, these are caste-based parties. And BJP helped them grow. This time, Akhilesh Yadav also did the same. He, Om Prakash Rajbhar, moved away from the BJP, joined Akhilesh Yadav. He took Anupriya Patel's mother, Krishna Patel, Abnadal Kamira, joined them. Keshav Dev Maurya of Mahandan claims to be a party of Kurmi, Shaki and Sahnis. He also came this side. Sanjay Chauhan, small Janwadi party solution, claims to be a party of Nonia Chauhans, also joined hands with Akhilesh. So he's trying to move beyond the Muslim Yadav combination. This election was also about managing the social equation well. Yes, when you are in power, when you have done something good, BJP providing free ration to the people, better law and order, there will be a kind of vote for the BJP which will come from every caste, beyond that caste equation. But to win the election, you need that caste equation, which both the main opposition parties, BJP and Samajwadi parties, tried to do during this election.
If we just go by the exit polls, which suggest that, BJP is indeed forming a government, what worked for them, according to you? Is it the welfare scheme? Is it Hindutva? Or a bit of everything?
What worked in favor of BJP, if BJP forms the government? There's this poor ration scheme has definitely, to some extent, given acceptance to BJP in the communities which were not usually BJP voters. But by saying so, I won't say that Muslims started voting for the BJP. That is completely not possible. Second, in the urban areas, BJP has been able to hold the vote bank on the issue of law and order. Law and order in a state like UP is a very big thing. I was talking to some leaders, some of the police officers, and say that, the kidnapping for ransom has stopped in UP because, we have completely restricted it. So that comes as a big bonus. One more thing I would like to add that, the biggest thing that helped the BJP and that you see it talking about is development, infrastructural development, expressways, better roads, better hospitals, better improved electricity situation. People think that this is the government which has worked so much in the areas where usually work was not done.
उन्हें अपनी उपलब्धि बतानी चाहिए। आज बिजली महंगी क्यों है, बेरोजगार क्यों है, डबल इंजन की सरकार ने किसानों को मजबूत क्यों नहीं किया, जो आय दोगुनी होनी थी किसानों क्यों नहीं हुई, डीजल पेट्रोल क्यों महंगा है, आज गैस का सिलेंडर भरवा नहीं पा रहे क्यों महंगा है।
On the other side, you have inflation, unemployment, as you yourself said, stray cattle eating crops. Those one would expect would offset some of those gains, and then COVID. But now, again, going purely by the exit poll numbers, it seems that most of those negatives have been forgotten or they've become non-issues.
Inflation, let me tell you, inflation is an issue not with the middle class. The middle class, who traditionally is voting for the BJP, especially from the upper caste, they are not worried about inflation. The Hindu sentiment, which you say, is to some extent there in the middle class, and they are ready to bear the price rise. They are ready to bear the price of inflation. They feel protected. They feel that this government is doing something for them. But if you talk about inflation for the lower class, that was definitely an issue.
Anshuman, I wanted to understand the BJP vote share you assume or you expect to come down by a few notches. The most important question was Akhilesh able to capitalize on that, or Mayawati held to her core constituencies?
Look, Arjit, it's a very good question. There are two questions in it. Let me start with the BSP thing. Whenever you talked with the BJP leaders, there was constant thing that, at the places where BSP is not strong enough to put up a fight, their votes will not go to the Samajwadi Party and they'll shift towards us. So that will give us an edge. This is an assumption by the BJP. I did not find that happening because whenever I travel from West, Bulandshahr, where BSP has been strong, to Agra, where BSP has been strong, to Bundelkhand, where BSP has very sizable presence, BSP is holding its vote this time. Not only holding, but a portion of vote that is left BSP is coming back. And the reason for that is they know that BSP is not going to come to power. Mayawati is not going to form the government, but they believe that if BSP wins certain seats, Bahanji could be a game changer. But he becomes a kingmaker. And that is there in voters' mind. I was traveling in Varanasi 3 days. My three drivers, and I asked them and they said, हारे चाहे जीते हम तो बहन जी को ही वोट करते हैं. मैंने कहा तो बहन जी तो कहीं रेस में नहीं है. बोला सर वोट देंगे तभी तो रेस में आएगी. वोट बढ़ेगा तो ताकत बढ़ेगी. So that assumption is completely wrong. BSP's vote is not going in. Now talk about Akhilesh. Whether he has been able to increase its base beyond Muslim Yadav. In West UP, he aligned with Jats, RLD. And for the first time, we saw RLD voting in good number for Samajwadi Party candidates also. You see Samajwadi Party history. They have never done well in western parts of the country, and their election always moved beyond second phase. So here they got Jat votes, so that added to them. In Central Plain, apart from Yadavs, they tried to align with leaders like Swami Prasad Maurya, Dharampal Saini, Dara Singh Chauhan. These are big leaders of their communities. So they tried to get a portion of these voters in these areas. Going forward, the Kurmi voters, the Patel voters from Anupriya Patel's mother, Krishna Patel, Apnadal Kamanwari, and other places, they have tried to forge an alliance of caste. And if you see, I don't know the exact number, but this is the time when lowest number of Yadav candidates are fighting on Samajwadi Party ticket. The ticket distribution is quite, where he has tried to be giving it to more to the rest. And that is what will increase his vote share. How much he goes up, that is a question we'll have to wait for.
The countdown for that has definitely begun. Results are out today on the 10th. And we will obviously hope to have you back to do a post-mortem of the numbers and in the days to come to see who comes back in power in Lucknow. As they say, the road to Delhi goes via Lucknow. Will that be the case? Will there be an upset? Anshuman, thanks a ton for taking time out despite your sore throat. Really appreciate it. My take. BJP's astute social engineering that began way back in the 1990s by one of its tallest OBC chief ministers, Kalyan Singh, and chiseled further over the last 7 years by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, his Chief Lieutenant Amit Shah, and Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath, combined with multiple welfare outreach and the disability of Akhilesh Yadav to attract large-scale votes beyond his core Yadav Muslim vote bank, certainly gives the Bharatiya Janata Party an advantage to return to power in the state, a first in the last 37 years. But it has been equally heartening to see issue-based voting as well, especially among UP's young and women voters. Make no mistake, for a certain demographic, still a large chunk by all means, the traditional caste fault lines remain a big factor, which is why I would still put my neck out and say BJP in all likelihood will see a drop in its tally from the wave of the last state elections of 2017, even if it wins the Ladai for Lucknow. You've been listening to Understanding UP, Ram, Roti and Rozgaar on the Morning Brief with me, your host Arijit Barmal. This episode was produced by Surbhi Modi from ET and Varun Kapahi from Awaz. Swati Joshi was the sound editor from Awaz. The executive producer, yours truly. I hope you enjoyed listening to the episode. If you did, share it on your social media networks. The Morning Brief drops every Tuesday, Thursdays and Friday. Thank you for listening. Goodbye. Good luck. All clips used in this episode belong to their respective owners. Credits are mentioned in the description.